Co-Opinions. My name is Josh, and today I have Jake.
Hello.
And Brent.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about games that were gone before their time. But before we do that, Jake, do you have anything you'd like to talk about? Little games you've been playing or any little game news that jumps out at you?
Not at this particular moment.
I know it's been busy in the King household.
Yeah, well, I just moved, so...
There is a King household now.
Yes, literally a household. I hold the house. But no, for the most part... I mean,
this is one of those times I wish we had video.
Yeah.
I literally did just get my computer and consoles turned back up, so...
Turned up for what? Oh, it's turned down. Damn it.
Ruined your own gag.
I know, right? Brent, what have you been playing? Or a little game news?
So I got to Mario Odyssey and I beat it.
Yeah, what'd you think?
I loved it. That was so much fun.
We won't go into it at length because we also played and beat it. But what about it exactly called out to you?
I don't know if I can, pick a specific thing. It just felt really good as the N64 feel. For some of it, I could feel a lot of N64 reference to a lot of it.
Now, I kind of had some very superficial issues with it. For example, one thing I did like was the fact they just dropped you into the middle of Bowser taking Peach. But I didn't understand the conflict. Like... Why was he going out of his way to set up such a nice wedding?
Why does Bowser do anything?
Well,
why did he hire a construction company to build weird planets that consisted of...
Focus on Odyssey.
I'm just picking apart any of the
Why
plots
did he
of
hire
Bowser
a
here?
bunch of bunnies from the dark side of the moon to plan his wedding?
I don't know.
Right?
He's weird that way.
There were just little bits.
He was bored.
So one thing I did have a legit problem with was the worlds that were the most fun were the ones where they just dropped you into the thick of it and said, just go do whatever. The one that was the most significant in that way was the desert world.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That was the best one because all the other ones pretended to give you this freedom of choice, but you didn't actually get it until you did whatever their...
Oh, the main thing was... Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of them.
There was still a main thing to do in the desert that changed it.
Yeah, there was a main thing to do in the desert, but there was still a lot of stuff you could do before the main thing.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of superficial little nitpicks. I think out of anybody, I was probably the most critical of it. It was still fun. And it was just a riot to see how Kara reacted when we came up on the sleeping photorealistic T-Rex. She's like, what? And just T-Rex rampage.
Oh, so much fun.
That was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed a lot of possessing people.
Capture. They do not like calling it possess.
It was possessing.
So, what else?
After I beat it, because I haven't completed it, because there's a lot of moons to get.
880 unique moons, and if you get 999, it unlocks, which you can buy. The other 120, Jake, I know you're not. Do you have a Switch yet?
I do not, unfortunately. Although I plan on buying one soon.
Mark got a Switch. Where's your Switch?
A $650 electric bill has kind of ruined that for me at the moment.
But it's made our day so much brighter.
Apparently. Is that where all my electricity is going?
Yes, into my sunny disposition.
After that, I touched Sonic the Hedgehog Lego level pack.
Yeah, you actually beat that, right?
Yep. I enjoyed it a lot. It really felt like I was going through the decades of Sonic in a Lego version.
Mm-hmm.
Because it felt like I started out in the old Sonic games, and then midway through I was in Sonic Adventure, and then probably some of the worst games after that.
I feel like they didn't really... Because we also played the Sonic level pack for Lego Dimensions, and it really feels like Sega wanted to do a greatest hits. It was so long.
It was long?
It was so long.
It is probably one of the longer ones.
I'm not sure if it was longer or shorter. No, it was longer than Adventure Time, but Adventure Time was also long.
Yeah, Adventure Time right now is the second longest to me, I think.
Okay.
Well, Mission Impossible may be up there. And finally, I have started Assassin's Creed Origin.
And you, so far, have been pretty positive, even though they changed it up a lot.
It is a dramatic... There's a lot of changes to just the gameplay
They made it an RPG.
Yeah, but you've lost eagle vision.
Well, but you have an eagle.
Yeah, you have an eagle.
Do you get to see through its eyes?
Yeah.
Then that's eagle vision.
It's a lot like, the best way to describe it, you played MGS5, doing stuff with the dog.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the combat's been changed a lot. There is a heavy overhaul on the combat. So.
Is there a heavy overhaul on the stealth? So you actually have to be stealthy?
I mean,
no.
It's probably about the same as MGS5. You can choose to be stealthy or you can be the guy who runs it. I would not recommend it in some cases.
What, the game?
No. I would recommend the game, but no, I mean not being stealthy.
I think that might be the next game I play. What do you think about the fact they officially announced the Assassin's Creed Rogue remaster?
I'm excited.
It hasn't been long enough.
It has been long enough, but I know Mark needs to get it, so...
Yeah, I don't even think he listens to this, man.
Sometimes.
Okay. Anyways, anything else?
I do have some news, I guess.
Okay.
One piece of news I want to touch on, because eventually we'll talk microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
EA announced how well Battlefront 2 did.
Okay.
They said it did not do as well as the first one, which most people are, pinning on the whole microtransaction debacle that went down when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see. We'll talk more about that when we talk microtransactions, but...
Yeah, that'll be a little bit, but I think that'll be a good episode. Anything else?
I had something, but I have forgotten what the other thing is. I cannot remember for the life of me.
Well, if you remember, just bring it up. Anyways, transitioning on to me, since the last time we talked, I knocked out FF12 HD. I didn't do nearly as much of the side stuff as I did the first few times around, but it's because I knocked it out right when I got all the Black Friday and Christmas stuff. So my backlog went from about 2 games to close to 30. Yeah. So there were so many things that I absolutely wanted to get to.
Oh, we're playing Snipper Clips.
We are playing Snipper Clips. Snipper Clips plus Cut It Out Together. That's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
For the Switch. And Jake, I know you've seen us play a little bit of it.
Yeah, actually it looked quite fun.
I'm glad I picked it up. Correction, I'm glad I got it as a gift. This is a fun anecdote, actually. So I got it as a gift from my mother, and she bought a couple games off Amazon for me. They came in. You've seen how when Amazon does gift wrapping, how they put it in just bags, right?
Actually, no.
Okay. Well, whenever you click gift wrap it for me, if it's small, they just put it in a small cloth bag. My wish lists were pretty well organized by how I wanted them. So when I picked up the 2 things that I originally got, I'm like, oh, this is obviously a Switch game, and since it was at the top, Super Mario Odyssey was at the top of my list, this is Super Mario Odyssey. I picked up another one, I'm like, this is a 3DS game. My second thing was Samus Returns. This is Samus Returns. I told my mom, I'm like, hey, I figured out what these things were. She goes, do you just not enjoy happiness? I'm like, Mom! So, it gets better. I think you might have heard this before, Brent. So we get another bigger package in, and I have a box. It's maybe the size of a glasses case, a little bigger than that. And I unwrap it on Christmas, and it looks like this cheap dollar solar-powered Christmas lights. I'm like, Kara, I think this is for you. I have no idea what I would use this for. And she goes, that's not for me. You should probably open the box. And I pop open the box, and my mom had shoved a Switch game in there. That way I couldn't tell when I picked it up what it was. That was pretty clever. So full marks there. I have also beaten the 3DS remake of Metroid 2, Samus Returns. Am I to believe neither of you will ever play this?
I've already beaten the original, so...
Well, they changed it. They changed some significant... First off, way harder.
Gives you a reason to play your 3DS.
Mm-hmm. Hey. It's way harder. They changed quite a few things to be more narrative focused. I loved it, to be frank. It's really hard at the beginning, but it eases up as you get more and more. They also changed something that happens near the end. Because some people who listen to this will play it. I won't spoil it, but I really liked what they did with that game. So I would 100% recommend it if you're good at Metroid games, so not for you, Brent. He couldn't beat Super Metroid.
Wow. Okay. Right? Sorry, Brent. I don't mean to look at you questioningly, but really?
I do.
Wow.
Right?
I guess the closest thing I've had for gaming news lately is I watched the Ace Attorney anime.
What'd you think of that?
I enjoyed it. It was the first half is very much, it's the first game, just straight up. They made Maya less annoying, which is good because I found her grating in most of the games.
Does he shout objection in the anime?
Yes,
I'm certain he does.
In fact, when they do the objection,
does it do?
It actually. He doesn't just point, but it's also like he has the power of wind or something because it actually blows the opponent back. So and vice versa. So it's actually pretty cool. It's straight up the game. The second half they took a little bit more liberty with. I mean, it's still the games as it were, but they gave it a little bit more wiggle room to make it more entertaining. Overall, I did actually enjoy it, though.
Wow, you're apparently in the minority. I heard did not hear positive things, but a few more game things on my part. I just wrapped up Wolfenstein 2, which got way more fun in the final third. First 2/3, mopey as all get out. Then a thing happens, which again, spoilers, so I'm not going to ruin it. And I also beat Pyre, the third game by Supergiant Games. Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good, and I want to talk about Supergiant Games on a podcast. But Brent, you've only beaten Bastion. Mm-hmm. Jake, you've beaten Bastion?
No.
You haven't beaten none of them.
I got most of the way through Transistor and then got sidetracked by something and never went back to it.
It's like a 6-hour-long game. Okay. Bastion was awesome, Transistor was awesome, Empire was awesome.
I played Bastion for a couple hours at one point, but I was going through a depressive patch during that time, and nothing kept my attention very
long. Got it.
That's unfortunate, 'cause that was during a phase for several years where I was hitting some pretty great indie games.
Yeah, that was a fantastic indie game, but just quick last note, there was a Nintendo Direct Mini this week.
That was one of those things, but there's still another I cannot remember.
If you remember, you can just yell it out. But the Nintendo Direct Mini, the big takeaways was mostly it was ports. They're going to port over, I'm trying to remember, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze.
I was about to say, was there, I saw footage of a Donkey Kong game.
Yeah, they're going to port that over. They also gave
Switch.
Yes, obviously. To what else?
Right. There was no 3DS news.
No. They also announced Dark Souls will be remastered and coming to the Switch. There was another. Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition
for this.
Yes,
I know. Right.
Didn't Kraus just say he wondered if that, or was that you? And then I said there wouldn't be one because they all... No. You said there wouldn't be because the 3DS one was already there. Yeah. And I said there was more. So I think I semi-called it, not particularly.
Yeah, I mean, we've called... I expected Smash before this, but...
Yeah, I'm a little surprised we haven't seen that yet. They also gave a release date for Kirby Star Allies. 4-player Kirby game.
This is the Kirby game they're working on for okay.
Yeah, 4-player.
So when's that release?
March 19th, I believe. It's very soon.
Yeah, that's sooner. So we were getting a Kirby game this year and what was the other one? Yoshi, there we go.
If I would guess, that's going to be third quarter based off nothing. So...
Well, you just guessed a Hyrule Warriors Complete Edition, so...
All right, maybe I can be 2 for 2 here. But it was a very news-filled week, if you ask me. But I love Nintendo. I'm an unabashed Nintendo fanboy.
Speaking of Nintendo, I still can't find a stupid SNES Classic for nothing.
Really? I heard you could get them on Best Buy it would have been GameStop because it was a bundle that came with
GameStop's going to be that's going to be a show.
Any online retailer is sold out. Now, I have a friend of mine who walked into a Walmart. Hey, look, a SNES Classic, buy. But so far, everywhere I've gone, every online web store, I've not been able to find nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. But since they decided to do more NES classics, I'm confident they'll keep...
Oh, so they have to just make more than 5, is what you're saying.
For the NES Classic?
Yeah, well...
Yeah. Think we're going to get an N64 Classic?
Yes.
Okay, so you agree. Jake did not agree with this.
They're printing money. I mean, they make a legal emulator with limited capabilities.
But there's a big difference between a 16-bit console emulation and full 3D model emulation.
Wow.
Yeah, they could do it, but it would be a lot more expensive to do.
I remember back when I was in middle school and I was doing emulators, N64 ROMs were 75 megs. Like, I'm not saying the technology is difficult or whatever, but I still think it might be more expensive.
Plus those controllers.
Those are not good in retrospect.
No,
use those to, like, deep sea fish.
I expect to actually see a Game Boy or Game Boy Advance.
Hyperkin is working on a game.
Well, Hyperkin is building their own,
but
that does also take the old cartridges, which is awesome. But I expect to see a Game Boy Classic, or actually probably more like a Game Boy Advance Classic, because it can do the old Game Boy games too.
Oh,
and then they can put both sets in one console.
That was something they announced, was The World Ends With You is getting re-released on the Switch, which is a Super Anime game that I know friend of the show Chris is a huge fan of. It was actually featured in Kingdom Hearts 3D, which is also the worst Kingdom Hearts. So, just throwing that out there. But we filled up a lot of time with all this back stuff. Let's go ahead and start talking about games that we believe ended before their time. Now, Jake, I know this is a foreign topic to you. You haven't touched on before, so I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah,
so we are dating this, is
the backstory to that particular comment is that this is actually kind of a lost episode that we recorded once before, and the audio was ruined because I like to tap. And during that time, the one that I had come up with as my topic was Darksiders, because I had just finished playing Darksiders 1 and 2 back to back, and I really enjoyed those games, and unfortunately THQ had gone under.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no expectation that there was going to be another game, but since that time, Darksiders 3 has since been announced and gameplay footage has been shown. So, awesome. I am stoked for the fact that that's going to happen. Unfortunately, it means that I had to come up with a completely different topic.
It did!
And unfortunately, I have a giant list of them that I don't have time to go over.
But you can focus on at least one of them.
Yes. Honestly, I have two that I'm just too torn between.
Okay.
One I can go pretty quick over. Anybody who's played them will understand. It's the Legacy of Kain series. My favorite side of it is the Soul Reaver portion, but Blood Omen...
You said the Legacy of Kain one was... Wait. Sorry, continue.
So it's Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver and Blood Omen Legacy of Kain.
That's not confusing.
Yeah, the first one was Blood Omen Legacy of Kain.
Is that the PC one?
No, that was a PlayStation game.
Remember Blood Omen?
And they did make it for PC, but it was originally for PlayStation.
Gotcha.
And that was done by Silicon Knights. And it's one of the games that really kind of put them on the map. And it was a joint partnership between them and Crystal Dynamics, who then got bought by Eidos, and Eidos basically wrested the rights of the game away from Silicon Knights and gave them permanently to Crystal Dynamics. Crystal Dynamics made a sequel called Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver.
That's the one where you played as Raziel, correct?
Yes.
Raziel, whatever.
Raziel. And so you're actually fighting the original protagonist of Blood Omen,
who was a huge dick.
Yeah, and that was kind of one of the things that you have to really dive into the lore of it to understand it. If you haven't played the first game, you're just kind of like, man, Kane's an ass, but then you find out, really, he's not.
The canonical ending is where he's selfish enough to destroy the world.
Well, that's the canonical ending according to Soul Reaver 2, but in Blood Omen, you were given two options.
You were.
You could choose to, destroy yourself and save the world.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that doesn't make for a good sequel. So the sequel to Soul Reaver 2, you actually go back in time, you resurrect kind of a vampire lord, and you really throw everything into chaos, which ends up creating the events of Blood Omen 2, which goes through, and they eventually kind of cause those two timelines to converge into Legacy of Kain Defiance, in where Raziel basically sacrificed himself to become the blade of the Soul Reaver for Kain. And that's where they kind of left it out. It was never intended. It was intended to be kind of an almost reboot of the series where they could continue on and make a whole new story out of it, but nothing ever happened.
So that's why you feel it's gone before its time, because they started up another story they never kept going with.
That and the fact that they've actually twice started work on a game, canceled it, and then started another one, canceled it, and then created a MMO that was also canceled.
Was that Nosgoth?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, there was this huge amount, and one of the things that made the games great was the writing of Amy Hennig, which most people would probably know from Uncharted at Naughty Dog.
But she was working on the Star Wars game.
She was very integral to the way the story was done and how the protagonists are seen. They're not the typical hero where it's, I'm the good guy. They have their foibles, they have their flaws.
Foibles.
They're flawed people that are just trying to do the best with what they have and what they know. So there was a lot of really awesome world building in that. Plus, there was fantastic voiceover acting in those games, which they kind of set a precedent for, because previously everybody who did voiceover for games was just kind of chumps. But this had Michael Bell, Tony Jay, all sorts of professional actors doing work on this particular series, and they would do the recordings with everybody in the same room instead of one guy recording his voice on Tuesday and another guy recording his voice on Wednesday in separate rooms. So it was a lot more immersive, a lot more interactive, and even today a lot of games don't do that.
Yeah, I know. I was fascinated, just as a quick aside, when it comes to voice actors, I was amazed at how much work goes into producing a good voiceover. I know that when the voice actor for Ezio for Assassin's Creed 2, he was asked to do some fan dubbing. He's like, it's not as good as it could be because my voice coach wasn't there to help properly direct me as to the motivation and who I'm supposed to be addressing. So it's easy to go back to these early voice acting and be like, wow, this is hot garbage. But there wasn't a precedent. So like you had Barry in the first Resident Evil, you were almost a Jill sandwich. He didn't know what he was doing.
Right. There's no context when you're just reading lines off of a script without any of the actual, video in front of you. And on top of that, I mean, even in animated stuff, they're not considered Academy Award winning potential. Voiceover work never actually gets any recognition. So it's kind of a shame because it can make or break a game or a movie.
Oh, most definitely. I would agree. But is there anything else on the Legacy of Kain?
Peter Dinklage. Said looking at you, Peter Dinklage.
Oh, God. That was a character not gone before his time.
Yeah. The only thing I have to say about
Mike would agree with us there.
The only thing I have to say about the Legacy of Kain stuff is with the revival of Tomb Raider, which is just a fantastic series.
The new one?
The new one.
Okay.
I would absolutely love to see what Crystal Dynamics could do with a, Legacy of Kain continuation or reboot. Either or, I'd be happy with each.
I'm looking forward to seeing the Vampire Overlord Kain rebooted as a sassy independent woman. It's actually Tomb Raider's a super good series, so don't take this dig as super serious, because I did enjoy both of those games tremendously, and Jake has a very valid point I shouldn't be undercutting. But you said you had a whole bunch.
So the other big series that I would love to see that I thought was ended before its time was the Alan Wake series.
But that only had one game and a DLC-ish thing, didn't it?
One game and then kind of a side game. They were actively working on Alan Wake 2. And Microsoft decided, because Microsoft was their major backer at the time, decided that because of the poor sales, even though it had great critical acclaim, they were like, well, we kind of want to go in a different direction. We want a different game, which they rolled a lot of the mechanics and ideas into what became the next game, Quantum Break.
Ooh.
And then took a lot of the ideas and settings that were intended for Alan Wake 2 and put it in Alan Wake American Nightmare, which was the pseudo side game.
The original sequel was called Alan Wake Up, and it was a board game set about not waking him up by moving through the house. No, that was Don't Wake Daddy. Sorry.
But, I mean, it's another game that was most of my gaming is story-oriented. I prefer games that have a good narrative to them, and that was one that had a really good narrative, and again, the voice acting was really well done. The music was integral to it, which I thought was kind of cool because it involves an actual like metal band from the 70s that actually they made songs about the lore of what's happening in the game itself. And it all ties in. There's a prophecy, and it was surprisingly well done. It was much better than I expected it to be, especially since you can't really kill these things without a flashlight, and your flashlight runs out of battery. It's just a really cool concept that was very well done and did not get enough play from people, honestly.
I heard interesting thing I could never bring. I was part of the reason, I guess, why it didn't do well, because I'm like, that sounds sort of interesting. I'm going to play Gears of War 3.
Well, and unfortunately, one of the problems that they have run into is the band that did the music, I think it's Poets of the Fall, the licensing deal for it actually ran out, so they can no longer sell the game because they don't have rights to the license to the music anymore.
Oh, couldn't they just put music in there?
No, because it's so... I mean, the lyrics to the songs are integral to the actual plot of the game, so you can't...
Sorry. So, like, the music was actually crucial to the game?
Yes, there's actually, like, lyrics and stuff that are clues to how to...
having the sweet, sweet saxophone of Kenny G in there just wouldn't be the same.
It's just not going to quite cut it.
That's a disappointment.
I know.
That's the sweet saxophone sounds Kenny G.
Mm-hmm. You can't photograph him. Did you know that? It's crazy. He's like a mystical creature.
I smell a bat. You mean he's a vampire?
Can you photograph vampires? They can't be seen.
You can't photograph
in
and you can't mirror.
Do digital cameras use mirrors?
Some.
Yeah, they still have to, kind of.
They still have to, kind of.
Some don't. Some don't.
Some do, some don't, but I'm willing to bet that if it can't reflect light, it can't take in the light either.
I'm not going to Scrabble rules this, but because it's all made up anyways.
Your face is made up.
Oh, yeah. Sick burn, bro.
Uh-huh.
Anything else, though, before we move on to Borents? Oh, okay. Here's a good question. If they were Legacy of Kain, you've already explained how you wish that could have continued on. How would you have liked American Alan Wake to continue on? It had a big hook at the end, didn't it? Because I looked up both of these series when you pitched them, and oh my god, you know how I hate time travel, Brent?
Yes.
Legacy of Kain made me want to blow my brain.
Oh yeah, Legacy of Kain is definitely a...
Because it goes Blood Omen, Soul Reaver 2, which then allows Blood Omen 2 to be... Am I getting that right?
Yeah, Blood Omen 2 kind of takes place before Soul Reaver, and actually allows the timeline of Soul Reaver to happen.
See, just blow my brains out. Just kill me now. I almost committed suicide at work. I also shouldn't mention that I did the research on these at work. But hey, here we are.
Yeah, well,
so
Legacy of Kain is just far too involved to actually get into story-wise, just because the first game itself creates so much world building that it's not MGS bad, but that's because nothing is MGS bad.
You read Homestuck.
That's not a video game. Ish.
Ish now.
Anyways, so Alan Wake, give me your
Alan Wake.
speech.
Alan Wake was originally set up almost as a TV series. So it was supposed to be Alan Wake 1 was actually Season 1. And it's set up in chapters, like episodes. And when you play the game, each chapter, they do a kind of a recap of the previous episode.
The second one was going to be Alan Wake Lost.
Ooh, that would have gone to bad places.
The first one kind of ended with him basically saying, look, I'm not giving up on my wife. I'm not giving up on these things. I will find a way to do this. And then it kind of ends. And they never really go anywhere beyond that because, the game ended and they never... American Nightmare is not intended to be a exact continuation of the game. More like, a nightmare. So, though it was still fun to play in the world a little bit, and it took place in, Arizona, I think it was.
Oh, God, that's where Outlast 2 was set.
but it's not. It's not the same as the original Alan Wake was. Well, not that either. But that was a different travesty.
Jesus Christ.
I would have loved to have seen it continue on, because I just thought the idea of it being set up kind of like almost a Twin Peaks-ish style.
Not a song. I'm glad I didn't play this.
Well, maybe Twin Peaks isn't exactly the right way to put it. I mean, there are nods to it, but there's also nods to like Twilight Zone, X-Files. I don't know. You if you get the chance to play it, I would highly recommend that you actually give it a chance.
All right. Well, I will put that in my back pocket with the 70 other game suggestions people have given me. So,
well, you still won't play Suikoden 2, so.
Hey, man, I beat the first one. The second one is on deck somewhere.
It's the superior game. The first one was literally them just trying to make sure that they could make the second game right.
Okay. Well, then, when I play it, I'll agree or disagree with you and everybody else who has said that. I think I'm at like 4 people at this point. But Brent, why don't you give your game series Gone Before Its Time?
Okay, I have 2 runners up. I'm going to bolt through these real fast. The lesser of the 2 would be the Killzone series real fast.
Because you were not sad when that last game.
The 4th one wasn't the best. I still would like to see them continue. I let them to go. The 2nd and 3rd one were definitely great. So I would really like a 5th one that is like those. There's still a chance. It's not the company didn't go under. They made Horizon Zero Dawn. 4 to me is not one to end on. So I'm hoping that by talking about this, it'll be the same as Jake's last game, and it'll get announced at E3.
I'm not canceling this episode too.
Damn it.
And okay, what's your second runner?
Second one, which is one you'll appreciate, the Dead Space series. Which now we can officially say it's super dead.
It's super dead. Which breaks my heart.
I kind of disagree just because I think the ending's still a horror ending and that it matches being a horror series.
Yeah, I don't know how they could have even continued it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, definitely a Twilight Zone style ending there.
A guy I know that I talked to, though, he brought up a valid point, was that humanity had populated across the stars. Earth could have been destroyed at the end of that, but humans probably would have still been around.
Slowly, but I think those things would have eaten them, the planets.
Probably. Did you play Dead Space 3, Jake? Did you play any of them?
No, unfortunately I didn't. I played Dead Space 1. I never got to the end, but I was very, very close to the end.
You should play the rest of the series.
The second one was critically lauded. The third one got way harder of a time than it should have.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Would I like to see another one? Of course I would. I super enjoyed the series, but I don't think no. But on to my main one, which is the Resistance series. And while technically, yes, it did have an ending, it really felt like the third one was made specifically. They talked for years how they're like, yeah, we want to do, what was the other game they made? You said it earlier and I've forgotten it.
Ratchet and Clank.
For a while, they're like, we're going to make Ratchet and Clank and Resistance games every other year. And then all of a sudden they made 3 and they're like, this is the end out of nowhere.
Well, that's because they're still trying to figure out the Ratchet and Clank Resistance crossover.
That would be interestingly hilarious. There was a lot of questions left unanswered in the series. They just kind of wrapped it up pretty quick. It felt they took a really different turn after the end of the second one, even though it was a pretty bleak position they were in.
I'm going to say it was spoilers, but didn't they kill the protagonist at the end of the second one?
And you play the secondary. You play the guy that killed the protagonist in the third one.
Nobody likes him.
I had no problem. I mean, he was kind of an asshole in the second one, but I had no problem with him. I mean, the story was interesting.
I mean, like, fans of the series, I thought, didn't like him.
Maybe? I don't know. I don't remember hearing that at all. Okay. I thought it was an interesting way to take the second one to kill the main protagonist.
Well, except then every game was doing that for a minute there.
Yeah. Well, they were one of the first. So
Modern Warfare kind of started that.
They started it, and then they did it in the second one by repeating it 4 times.
Yeah, they drove it so far into the ground.
This was totally different. The first one had acted like he died at the end, and he didn't die. He survived because the person narrating the first one thought he was dead. And then in the second one, it was advertised as this is his last 24 hours. So you didn't really think it was going to happen. And then at the very end, he completely turns to one of the aliens, and the other guy blows his head off. So
what a uplifting story. Where would you hope it would have gone? Did they repel the invasion at the end of the third one?
Well, the invasion was pretty.
The fight, take them to the Halo.
That was one of the things, like, because like almost all of society was down to people living in small like enclaves of people. Society, all governments had gone away.
Okay.
Because the aliens had won, and they were terraforming the planet to fit their needs. And that's what you stop. You stop their machine at the end of the third game that's terraforming the planet and making it colder. Because they need it to be really cold because their bodies run super hot. That's why in the game they have to have those packs on their backs. They're there to cool them off. But you Deus Ex Machina sort of destroy the machine to end it, and then that's just it.
I did not expect Zeus to show up to solve this. Sorry.
You killed me there.
Sorry.
Anyways, they destroy the machine. It closes up the portal to where these aliens come from. But there's a lot of questions that were left unanswered. Like, they talked about the way that the characters who would get controlled by the aliens talked. Like, there was something else and you just never saw it. And they had been on Earth previously and something had killed them, but there's never any explanation as to what killed them the first time. There's a whole lot of stuff they just never touched. There was some war going on, but you never saw it because the series ended. So
curious.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of things they could have delved into.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just pulled through that so we can get to yours.
Oh, thank you. It's very considerate. So I didn't even realize I had a runner-up until we started talking about this again and Jake mentioned the whole episodes thing. I'm not going to say it was gone before its time because it only had one game and I don't even think it sold that well. But my God, did I love Asura's Wrath. That game was so much fun. It played like an anime show. Like, every chapter, it said, like, last time on Asura's Wrath.
Oh, yeah, I remember you playing.
Oh, my God, it was so much fun. I loved it. But it had some incredibly terrible DLC practices. A lot of people criticized the fact that for 90% of it, it was an interactive cinema. I can't blame them, but I thought it was super fun. I'm not sure where they could go with it, to tell you the truth. I'm going to go ahead and just spoil this super bad. At the end of the game, your player character essentially kills his creator god, the guy who made the universe. Not positive where they could go, because in the process, when he dies, all creatures that exist off of his essence, called chakra, I believe, they all die, which includes your player character. Billions of years later, you're reincarnated in, like, New York. And I don't know where the series could go.
You find out that you're all in a computer simulation and there is a creator god above you.
That was Star Ocean 3. So, I guess unexpected spoiler alert. Anyways, it's like a 15-year-old game at this point.
I feel there's a statute of limitations there.
Yeah, spoiler alert, Jesus dies in Passion of the Christ. Anyways.
What?
I know. And I almost said Donkey Kong.
I thought you said Kong.
I almost said Conky Kong. Whew, I'm a little loopy tonight. Anyways, so I would love to see another Asura's Wrath game. I know it won't happen. I would love to see it. Did anybody else here play it? Brent, you watched me play it.
I watched you play it too.
Okay, I played the sin out of that game. It's so much fun.
It's also more of like cinematic game rather than...
Yeah, I said that. I said it was an interactive cinema.
Yeah.
Unabashedly. Anyways.
So half the Metal Gear Solid series?
Ugh, too real, man. I want another Asura's Wrath game. I'm cool. If we don't get another Metal Gear...
Well, you're getting Metal Gear
Survive.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Maybe we should have done an episode of games that should have ended earlier.
That could be the next episode.
Yeah, that's the follow-up. Games that were gone after their time. Anyways.
So what's your actual...
My actual one is a game I'm positive you guys have not played. Well, maybe you have, because you have been around for a million years, Jake. It was on the Nintendo. Don't give me that look.
Just trying to decide if I should bash you with my cane or not.
There we go.
For those not here watching, he's laser-eyeing him now.
Yeah, with his old person lazy eye. He's lazier-eyeing. Anyways. Oh, God. The liver spots. Anyways. The game was a series. There were only 2 games of it on the NES called Star Tropics. I loved these games as a child. I loved them to death. In the first one, you had to go find your uncle as you traveled in between different islands. And it's straight up a Zelda ripoff, but it's a Zelda ripoff with a lot of charm and interesting approaches, and it was just a fun game.
Was that Sunsoft?
No, that was internal to Nintendo. I actually have it. Yes, I have it pulled up right here because it was so weird. It was developed by Nintendo R&D 3. These were the same people that made Punch-Out. They made Super Punch-Out, Pilot Wing 64, and the Rumble Pack.
I was going to say, I feel like there was a piece of hardware in there.
Well, most of this is hardware. Because the last game they made before... they made one game on Super Nintendo, and that was Super Punch-Out. The last Nintendo game they made was Star Tropics 2 in 94. And then the last actual game they appeared to have made was Pilot Wing 64, it looks like.
Yeah, which was an early SNES game.
Pilot Wing 64 was a launch in 64 title.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And so they didn't really make much. And the second game, so you go to find your uncle. At the end of the game, you find out, actually aliens. It was early 90s. Like, it meshed perfectly into that exotica mixed with aliens. Like, it's almost pulpy, to tell you the truth. It was great.
So that reminds me of a previous conversation we've had before. That you actually preferred Secret of Evermore over Secret of Mana.
Yes, because it was better.
And, well, I disagree with that, but...
That's fine.
I mean, it wasn't a bad game. And it sounds like it's quite a bit like that, except...
Well, so Secret of Evermore, you were constantly in the same screen. In Secret of Evermore. In Star Tropics, there was an adventure screen where it was almost identical looking to Zelda. But then when you went into dungeons, it became like this top-down... Yeah, so that's the adventure screen Brent is showing right here to you, Jake.
Yeah.
That's when you're going into towns and talking to people. And then when you go into dungeons, which Brent may or may not be looking up,
There's no picture right now.
Okay. Anyways, it shifted to a different perspective where you were more realistically proportioned and you could fight enemies, solve puzzles, fight bosses.
Gotcha.
I loved it to death. I thought it was great. Then I found out they made a sequel, Star Tropics 2. Now, where do you go from Magical Island Adventure? They went time traveling, but it wasn't dumb time traveling. It was, this is Nintendo in 1994, so you get teleported back to caveman days, and you fight a monster who eats a bunch of pigs, and then like you go through Leonardo da Vinci and Egypt, and you meet up with Merlin at one point. So, and you end up fighting the aliens some more, because of course you do. What I would have loved to see, now that I am much older, I would have loved to see a game that combined both of those by having you travel around and interact with old ancient cultures. So, like, the alien would be trying to get something from Inca culture, or, like, from old Indian culture, like, trying to get some kind of obviously dated relics or artifacts that they then tied into aliens. I would have loved that. That would have been great. But it's never going to happen because that was 24 years ago.
I guess we'll just have to cancel this episode and find out.
Never. Never again. So, you still looking over there, Brent?
I couldn't find a good dungeon one, I don't think.
Okay.
That's fine.
Anyways, I would have loved to see Star Tropics 2. A lot of that has to... Star Tropics 3. There was a fan game in the work, but it just looked like a remake of Star Tropics 1.
Well, and Nintendo's track record with people using their IP is... Yeah.
What is the statute of limitations on an IP?
I believe it's pretty much like any copyright, like 54 years.
Oh my god, it's going to be 2048 before they can make.
You'll have your own liver spots by that point.
Don't be silly. I stopped having birthdays last year.
Yeah, okay.
That's how that works. Anyways, So before we transition to the end of this series, I want to talk about the penultimate game gone before its time.
Oh, Half-Life 3, we knew you not.
Or Half-Life 3 or Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Because Valve decided to go to episodic gaming so they could get these games out faster.
Yes, well, it was supposed to be Half-Life 2 Episode 1, 2, 3, and then Half-Life 3.
Mm-hmm. But because they can't count past the number 2.
Really is kind of a problem for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, now they just don't make games.
No, they make games for the
Dota?
HTC Vive and Dota, and that's it.
So, talk about the ultimate and blue balls on that one.
Man. It's such a shame, too, because they were one of the first games to do kind of storytelling narrative games pretty well.
That was something that was truly unique, was the fact that you never lost perspective from the main character's perspective. And that really created an immersive type of game. And I know Half-Life 1, it was divisive, because while the first part was good, the second part, when you went to Zen, pretty much universally panned.
Yeah, and that was... I see what they did. They were trying to really mix it up and add a whole new dimension, which, to be fair, Valve...
They went to literally a new dimension.
Well, that too. But Valve has always tried to create something new in every one of their games. You had the whole gravity setup in Zen with Half-Life, as well as just the way they did the ambience. With Half-Life 1, you had the gravity gun. With
Half-Life 2.
Or Half-Life 2, you had the gravity gun. With Half-Life 2 Episode 1...
you had super gravity gun.
Well, you got that at the end of
Is that Half-Life how that
2.
worked out? Okay.
I forget which one Episode 1 gave, but it gave you something. Then Episode 2 gave you an AI partner that was actually capable and not completely useless, in the form of Alex.
Before her dad got murdered.
Spoilers!
What do you mean spoilers? It's been a decade!
And we're never going to see any resolution.
During the time that Half-Life 2 came out, we've had all of the BioShock games come out. And then get remastered.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, at this point, people at Valve have basically said that at this point there's so much hype and they've not been able to get anywhere with it that it's pretty much a dead project. It's never going to come out. Gabe Newell is pretty much... nothing has gotten him interested in it again, and like two of the main people that were integral to the plot and design of the game have left Valve. So
this made me suddenly really sad.
Yeah,
I didn't expect this to be as much of a bummer as it ended up being.
Yeah, and it's such a shame because I go back every couple of years and replay all those games because they were so much fun to play.
Now, when you say all those, do you mean the Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and 2?
Mostly, although sometimes I do play Black Mesa, which is the remake of
the first part.
Did they finish the whole way through that?
They still haven't put out Zen, I believe.
I believe it's actually in beta now, where you can play it, because I know they've shown footage, and I know that if you buy it on Steam, you get to be part of the early release. So,
well, at least someone remastered the first one.
Well, Valve remastered the first one too. They moved it from Gold Source Engine to Source Engine, which all it did was make the water look better.
Yay!
Yeah, not really. It was not. I mean, when they remastered it, it was I think it was before Half-Life 2 even came out, or it was just after they'd come out with Steam, so it's about the same time as
so when they killed Half-Life.
Man. No, just talking about this, there's never going to be another Portal game either.
There was. It was a Lego Dimension Pack.
Shut up.
There was never...
I might end this now, on principle.
There was actually no expectation of there being another Portal game.
I know, but I loved that.
Yeah, they were...
If Half-Life had been just a little bit more family-friendly, we would have got a Lego Dimension Half-Life Episode 3, so...
Now... The one thing I will say is apparently the way Valve does things is anybody in the company is allowed to work on any project they want. So if someone suddenly gets a wild hair up their ass, they can basically say, hey, I'm interested in... I've got this cool idea for Half-Life 2 Episode 3 on how to tie this whole thing up. I'm going to go work on this. They can go do that. And if they have just a absolutely amazing idea, they'll get resources for it. If they can get people interested in it, it might happen. Same thing with Portal. If someone comes up with a great idea of what to do for a Portal 3, they can come up with that. And build it.
Lego Dimensions level.
Brent!
I need to find something to hit him with.
Hey, in my defense, it actually really was a fun game.
Lego Dimensions?
The Portal level pack.
Yeah, and you got to see GLaDOS interact with Hal from Space Odyssey, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, 90% of the reason to play that game is to listen to GLaDOS.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure how they'd even do a third Portal game with the way the second one ended.
So, the other good thing about Portal is with Portal 2, they created the whole Steam Workshop thing, and a lot of people put out their own levels that are fantastic. There are a couple of games that a lot of people say, or a couple of add-ons that a lot of people say are full-on Portal 3 level sequels.
See, I thought you were about to say the loose connection between Portal 2 and Half-Life.
That's...
the ship.
Yeah, the Borealis, but that's...
We don't know.
We'll never know.
We will never know.
Unfortunately.
Sad.
Unless the great Gaben deigns give his blessing.
Yeah. He giveth and taketh away forever. Ugh, Christ.
Just like Alan Wake on Steam.
All those numerologists lied to us with their 3s.
Yeah, I know. When I look for reliable sources.
Hey, there's 3 of us here. Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Oh. And now I just have to cancel the episode. Anyways.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's the twist. This will be the Lost Episode 2. It's the Lost Episode 2, except it's TOO. It works on a lot of levels, guys. Alright, I've pretty much run out of steam on this one. WCI.
Valve.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
You guys got anything else you'd like to add?
That I want another Half-Life game, but it's never going to happen, yeah.
Yeah. I'd like another Asura's Wrath game. I'd like another Star Tropics game. Jake would like a 70s metal band to sing about Alan Wake some more.
The band wasn't a 70s metal.
Were they not?
No.
See, I thought they got Tesla to...
No, they still... They're a band that made it big in the 2000s and still... Well...
Tesla?
Made it big, but... No.
Tesla.
No, not Tesla.
Twisted Sister. Duran Duran.
No, stop. No.
Hungry Like the Wolf?
That is Duran Duran. I was thinking of the steel horse on which somebody rode. Okay. Why am I thinking Bon Jehovah's Witness?
What?
Alright. I don't think we're going to get anywhere more productive than that.
So do you guys have any more games that just title, you don't have to go over them, but that you kind of wish were...
So, Asura's Wrath was a big one. I feel like...
KOTOR for me.
KOTOR.
I love a KOTOR 3.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I find that the KOTOR game lore is better than the original series movie lore, which I know there are a lot of people that want to string me up for saying that, but really I find it far more interesting.
I mean, but most fans want them back in the new canon, so myself included.
I would like to say, and we're going to touch upon this, friend of the show, Kraus and I, we're going to talk about, there was a game called Illusion of Gaia on Super Nintendo. We were huge fans of that. That was the second in a unofficial trilogy, but we never got the third game in America. So I would say I wish that there was more games in that trilogy, but I'd just really like to play the third game.
Have you checked to see if there's any ROM hacks
There is. It doesn't play well that way. And also, I feel like there was another one. I want Mother 3 to be released here, and then them to do a Mother 4. So, but that's not happening. So, because the director has explicitly said it. Also, pretty sure... Oh, God, I feel real... Iwata was involved in Earthbound pretty heavily. So, that would present some issues.
Yeah.
God, we keep bringing the sads.
Right? Earthbound, unfortunately, because it looked very kiddie, didn't get a lot of recommendations from people who didn't play it. You know, they looked at it just on the surface and were like, "Oh, that's for kids. I'll never play that." But really, it's a very kind of dark game.
I mean, I've never played it, and I know that.
And that was the other thing, is it was unbelievably troubled because there was supposed to be a Nintendo one that was released as Mother Zero, Earthbound Zero here. And that got scrapped right before it came out here. And then when they released Earthbound Mother 2, which we just called Earthbound, they had no idea how to market it. So they tried to market it as a gross-out game for some reason. Yeah, so if you go look up old Earthbound ads, it talks about how disgusting it is.
Huh.
It's really weird. So, and then Mother 3 was released on Game Boy Advance in like 2007 in Japan.
Yeah, of course.
And they keep teasing, because they released Mother Zero, Earthbound Zero out of nowhere a few years back.
Oh yeah, when they just and here it is, and it's already out.
Yeah, it's out on the Wii U eShop right now. So everybody keeps hoping on one Nintendo Direct, like maybe E3, they go, we're going to put out Earthbound 2, Mother 3, whatever. When? Right now.
Drop
the mic. So
I got two more. Off the weird one, I would have loved for there to have been, and I believe there was supposed to be an X-Men Legends 3. I really liked that series a lot. It was really good, and it was probably one of the best X-Men games. It's usually considered one of the best X-Men games, but they never made it. And I would love for a Pokemon Snap too.
Oh my god. Do you know why that won't happen?
Because they didn't like the game in the first place and don't know why people like it so much.
Wrong. Because of that stupid AR game you have pulled up on your phone now, Pokemon Go. Yeah.
I still feel like they didn't want to do it before that.
Yeah, they did.
Like when the Wii U came out and everyone's like, oh my god, you gonna give it to us? Like, the technology's not there. And then they're like, Zombie U. And it's like, but guys, just look, we don't want this game. Leave us alone. Why do you like it so much?
Yeah. They're like, well, you could do it on the Wii. And you could do it on the Wii U. And you could do it on the Switch. No. Oh my god. Stop, guys. No. Just no. You know what? In fact, we're going to cancel some other game now.
Just for you.
That's despite all of it.
Just despite you. But anyways, well, that pretty much brings us to the end of our time here.
Oh, but I had such a list to go with.
I bet you did. But besides Jake's list, do you have anything else you'd like to add, Jake?
Stop listing.
No, fine. I won't go through my list of things like Beyond Good and Evil 2 and No One Lives Forever and Enslaved Odyssey of the West, Mirror's Edge, System Shock.
Mirror's Edge. Okay.
Mirror's Edge got a remake and it was a disaster.
System Shock also is getting a remake. So,
I mean, technically, BioShock was a...
I don't want a remake of System Shock. I want a System Shock 3.
Yeah, but that might kick off enthusiasm for it.
Might.
Kind of like what happened with Darksiders. What was it you wanted? Darksiders had sexy cats. I don't remember what you wanted.
What?
Just keep listing games and maybe some of them will get announced to D3.
I'm going to
That's how this is going to work.
Neverhood. No One Lives Forever.
You already said No One Lives Forever. You said it twice. Now you've undone the magic.
Wait.
Rogue Squadron.
Crap. Okay, yeah, I guess that's it for my list tonight.
Okay, well, on that note, thank you for coming on, Jake.
As I'm getting death glares. Mm-hmm. This might be my last episode. So. Good talking to y'all.
Brent, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Let us know what game ended before its time. Let us know if you thought any of our suggestions were terrible or went on too long.
There's that glare again.
But until next time, my name is Josh, and this is Co-Opinions.